Namo Guru Be Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharmaya Namo Sanghaya Namo Guru Be Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharmaya Namo Sanghaya Namo Guru Be Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharmaya Namo Sanghaya Kande Laje Gwenje Toga Ne Raga Shosa Wonde Chenze Cheje Jabo Gwenje Losan Da Seda Jeba Nende Shesos Gwenje Nanga Sende Bende Cheje Lama Jebe Zonga Jen Dalo Debe Senama Shinjo Tenba Niji Kejare Sozo Shije Chungguan Jabe Lode To Kesa Nabe Jenju Tabe Beje Lame Zebe Go Tongde Chenbe Tende Laja 以我去那座灭道的体现度别，当先这叫做为啥一直去真叫做是那心着切了切吧，感谢同面对呢萨巴也论我也说每个季节。 铁不让东巴松节没得，宁年就把这边说说下，宁面对的忙的多了，世界旁边等着等夜间广播确界拉不进在，大家上班特别依让。 接着拉曼当把天南街，出个卡拉天街真正，接到上边对接什么，上街去街小瓦阿多，南大为些引来先把也送着过了查到没，他们让我说过热的。 西的巴多美诺电巴，大说今年三百给我的电当中，康边的铁不拉机子，路上超过一电百宁波人，世界说妹妹这边得见见人。 前面天边王波江边阳，对方马绿种在上边，看见开边昨天中华把路上照，说完的妹妹这边得见见人，前面天边王波江边阳，对方马绿种。 上边的看见开边走进中国，路上长边下了说我，妹妹这边带进今日是前面天边王波江边，对我马路中在上边的看见开边走进中国，路上长边下了。 sowan de banden zabe lama rinpoche dagi jiwro bende densho kadi chenpe kone cheso kuzo toje ngudro zedo banden zabe lama rinpoche daso nyingaran peme densho la kadi chenpe kone choda demo wedo zendo se bande zabe lama rimbo daso nyingaran beme sho kadin chenbe kone cheso chanjo nyingbe bak tembara jo masa jeme shera pare maje mang namge ngowo nye soso rari yishe juyo tuzon jebe yung chanze lo ta gade para samgade bodhe sowa teya ta gade para samgade yezo wan teya ta gade para samgade bodhe yezo gere tongda jajo shewa medye nyebe jendan dewandan temban doshe pezon taje deja yo sa chembe chanjo bandon dane nyamzo je dage chujun jibe chonam je rola sanje ro bara jo
simje taje to tojadan me ya da bazo so ye ko bono mo je ne to ba sai ti je di tambe che se ne be kulu chanju se je mo se je se da ne barkis.
Let me remind every one of ourselves to take a moment and cultivate the highest form of positive motivation. We call it altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment or Buddhahood for the benefit of all other beings. And with that kind of at least contrived positive altruistic motivation, we should participate in this discourse on Bodhisattva's way of life.
The shunzun the days at that cursa. Because a gill with those at the Kana, that the 2 years intelligence move pongse move tos there any temple tos there no go tos there toyo tos there the his do that in my shares
Just to recapitulate a little bit what we talked about last week and where we left off in this guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life, in Sanskrit called Bodhisattva Avatar. And so we are dealing with the perfection of enthusiastic perseverance or joyful effort, called Chundu in Tibetan. And in order to cultivate or practice this perfection, on the one hand, we have to recognize the different forms of laziness, such as laziness of being in a couched potato kind of thing, and not really thinking or want to do anything, and then other forms of laziness. And on the other hand, we also have to develop our sense of confidence. In the text, it's called pride, but which means confidence. And so we highlighted that we develop the pride of our ability to do things. It's called Nivetop in Tibetan. We develop the ability to be able to let go, right? Something, if we need to a little bit take a pause or a rest to do our practice because we're exhausted or whatever other reasons, and then we have to pick up our energy and pursue our practice, or that if we have attained a certain level of realization, we don't want to get stuck in that level of realization. Rather, we would like to advance to the next level, right? So that kind of confidence or pride that we talked about, and so other forms of pride or confidence.
어디다 동벌시 뭐베도 때마마서 나지 본다 가이봉 토요봉 시셰보 시셰보 당본네 나도 신기 소데스 자외식들 그냥 dimba 메베 녜바 메바라 녜바 시질 dimba 마시바라 메바네 다 특징라 뭐가 제네 샤슈슈도 셈제데스 특징이 고르슈바나 dimbe도 잡고 고네 다의 신기 주 유베 데미지 녜바 예 소네 타예바의 신 바드메바시 유베 뜻담지 다게 좀이 바 샤고바 시데 셈제베 주스 대다 고셔고데 담제바 이셔 대라 녜바 쇼베 뒤강디 녜베 소망본나 다쇼 샤서 뉴모비 녜바 레레 박좀 다제와 쇼발라야 깨바 자서 따라 타예바 뒤스 마시 바드데 니부터 케버제 제네 메바 셴보 쉐베 봉왕 조인발라 예베레도 세제 세베시디 니부조 종주조마 데 샤시 종세 레자야 등호다가 죄라 마토웨람 미나나 코아다 녀석이 동은 빠디 메베 네스 슈밤 노디 슈바 다기 서다 코시 시데 지데무지 시르 시르나 닝 먹여보야 레바 마주와니 닝르 사시 랑라 메네 듬바게 데스 존주좀버 고아오스 어다디 롭존시다 사무동동 드스고 다디스고 거기 또도 다 예배도 세워들 들달래 신부 무바게는 비에네 엔 전주 심기자는 엔 심지가 상제살 거야 네박 요소 봉야 데 사무도 쇼리스 킬나시오스 다다 바디래 아니 네박 가가 파스다 네박 지 카셰 저야 갑디도 야보짠 베요 마리스 팀에서 다데 저저도시 다 통보 케라 탐자 디레시 에 라렌타리도 잘자 냠스르마 데샤디 인 베슈 하조 저보 베스 문에 저서 신나도 왜는 닝케가 저 신나자리디 디마게 베쇼레스 거기 가다야 디도달레 가지 좋아 제가 심지어서 배우면 좋아 라렌타고 그랬어 제가 예와 탐지해야 돈다고 드리 심지어리 다다 라렌타야 돼 예와 가시해야 돈달라 드리까지 자요 말았어 제가 더 심지어다 라렌타야 신의 배워도 샤인자 디베시부 쪼버시부레스 어디서 와다
Those of you who have this English translation of Bodhisattva Char Avatar or a guide to Bodhisattva's way of life, we are on page 92, and Geshe-la's reading of the commentary and explanation pertains to stanzas from 32 to 34, 3 stanzas there. And so as we talked about this last week in stanza 32, there's a mention that we need to, how should I say, cultivate the 4 supporting forces or the powers, right? And the 4 conducive of forces, the powers are aspiration, self-confidence, joy, and in this translation translated as rest. And Geshe-la explained that in 2 ways. Remember, letting go and also advancing to the higher level. And so in order to be able to advance in this Bodhisattva's perfection of joyfulness or enthusiastic perseverance, we also need to rely upon or cultivate these supporting forces or conducive powers. And then the next 2 stanzas, as Geshe-la explained. So this is how the Bodhisattvas, they boost up their confidence level. So Bodhisattvas think this way, that so I have generated bodhicitta or altruism, Changjusim in Tibetan, which is basically wishing to become an enlightened being for the benefit of all other sentient beings. So that is incredible altruistic state of mind that I have generated. Now, in order to materialize the goal of this altruism or bodhicitta, it means to become an enlightened being for the sake of all sentient beings, I need to purify all afflictive emotions and their imprints, and I also need to accumulate merit and wisdom, right? Without these 2 things, that I cannot become an enlightened being. So I made a big promise already, isn't it? Which is very wonderful. Now when I actually look at myself, am I doing anything to fulfill my promise? Then it's kind of like I'm really not there, isn't it? There is kind of contradiction, almost like I make a big promise, and when it comes to action, I'm really not doing much here, and so that's very unbecoming on my part. If I seriously think this matter, maybe metaphorically speaking, I should have a heart attack, but I haven't got a heart attack. How can that be? I said I want to be Buddha for the sake of all beings. In order to become a Buddha, I have to get rid of all the afflictive emotions. But then I'm not making even much effort to get rid of one afflictive emotion. I said all, right? So how can I just, remain like that? In order to become a Buddha, I need to accumulate incredible merit, punya, and wisdom, gyan. But then I'm not making much effort to accumulate even a little bit of merit and wisdom. So there seems to be disparity between what I promised to do and what I should be doing, right, to get to the enlightenment. And so this is very unbecoming on my part. And so therefore, I really need to pick up my confidence level, or I need to encourage myself that you made a big promise, and your promise must also be accompanied by action, isn't it? Without practice or action, one never becomes enlightened being. Just simply developing bodhicitta, bodhisattva's attitude, is a wonderful thing, but it's not an action per se, isn't it? So we have to, motivated by that, engage in purification practice and accumulation practice. Oh, this is where I really need to, now master my courage and do it. So this is how bodhisattvas encourage, themselves.
Oh, this is that cause that Dorjee, Munzi Vega, that Joyous Lemba, Huyang somebody to get the bear. Easy Jaguda, Chinjil the bear. So much trouble in the figure. Love logins, or Tonda do not initiate a country. Easy to get Ganga Bay. Shera Juvache would get. In the moment that day, to the toilet, my city. Anyway, Choices in Bejoga, Yamland was shaking himself. Or Tinder times a share of Sure. Tell that this was at Movie Pongsa, I didn't say.
So to summarize the point I just made, so basically, this is the bottom line, as Krishna said, that we bodhisattvas, or we those who want to follow Bodhisattva's way of life, we engage in this kind of a self-reflection and self-assessment, isn't it? I made a big promise to become a Buddha for the sake of all beings, but so far, really, my actions have not been at par with my promise and pledge. I've been very much lacking in terms of my action and practice. I really regret for wasting so much of a time. Now I don't want to continue doing the same thing. Hereafter, from this moment in the future, I really would like to seriously engage in the necessary practices, the perfections, and so forth, so that I'm able to realize the goal of my altruism or bodhicitta. So this is bottom line, what the Bodhisattva is kind of intrapersonally communicating to themselves.
They gave us a Gyeltsen that Mambo Sage for the Nyambo Goma, Joyous. Give a Gyeltsen, Nyambo Gombe, and never 7 Joe. You know, she Jones Mandra, Shongos, that Jordan cut that 60 minutes. So that's what I can give a Gyeltsen Gunara, give a de Casa. Give a Gyeltsen Nyambo Gunara, Kanji, give a Gyeltsen and be that Mississippi party Nyambo Yango Joyous. Give a Gyeltsen, Nyambo Gun is a Tondachi. She gave a Gyeltsen, but Nyambo Gun says, give a Gyeltsen party this was Nyambo Gun go and Joyous the old teaching bodies. Kaji Kata that Donna. Tuzu and that's there, but this is Google is a Kalekana. Just some of the Torgo. The Tuzu Kazikona Margona. Because Lame Zorsan to talk to us here. Call a Kanga, the Tuzu to get that some of my this or that.
I think this pertains to the translation of the last line of stanza 33. The whole stanza reads as follows. I quote, I shall have to overcome the boundless faults of myself and others, and in order to destroy each of these faults alone, I may have to strive until an ocean of eons is exhausted, unquote. So there's a metaphor used, until an ocean of eons is exhausted. So there are two ways of rendering it, and here it is said that I may have to strive. That's how it is. Or it could also, we can say, I will strive, right, until that long. So the time of the duration is not the issue or matter. What Bodhisattva is really telling themselves is that I will never give up, right? However long it takes, for many eons, an ocean of eons, right? I'm going to stay the course. I'm going to do everything to purify my afflicted emotions and negativities and to accumulate merit and wisdom, and I'll just kind of focus on that. So I'm not going to focus on like, oh, is it going to be challenging, or like, what happens if I, face too many hardships? They said, I'll withstand all such hardships and challenges, however long it takes. It may not take that long, but however long it takes, so be it, right? My focus is not on the challenges and the duration of the time. My focus is on what I must do, right? Action-oriented, purification and accumulation practice.
Yonde be da malubu zoba de be yonde shaki chen de be shi de ji toda ya ni ke wa jazo de be kale jane je ba je si ru sin ta da ba de in dire toda de be ka shi ru zan shi to me du si shi de ti de da ti ka shi ba shi ba de me de sim ji de zan dire ka shi she ke la sa yin za shi de ti so be So
in other words, bodhisattvas are intra-personally communicating to themselves that I have already generated this bodhisattva's attitude or altruism bodhicitta, which means that I sincerely wish to become a Buddha, enlightened being, for the sake of all sentient beings. And so which means the enlightened being has many marks of realizations, isn't it? But when I actually look at myself, I haven't even made enough effort to be able to actualize one of those marks of realization. Forget about all I said, right? I want to be enlightened fully. So that would involve realizing all the marks of realizations. But when I really look at practically myself, I haven't done even enough to be able to realize one mark. So now I cannot continue doing this, and so I am going to make this resolution, right? I regret for not having worked hard enough in my practice, but hereafter I resolve that I'm going to change myself, and I'm going to do my best to be able to engage in the bodhisattva deeds or the actions. So that's basically what this is all about.
This is what be to Mongol song the logo, the Tata so to be dead, the kind of San Jamandus. The Rengata Nive, Tenjo, then be me, Joy Chevergin Dennis. The Tenjo said, there was a Musa Niga, she Kagor. Children lay and there some would Tenjo to go. Tenjo did just some nigger, so that they need and have their toll under the donkey, what they do this or there. Money said, Minji, Missy Casa. Remone, she that day. Jala, Ringazana, Samna, Nive. Tenjo, they will me. Jawa Kevergin, tea, job you. Kever Shady, Gaden Dorgoban, dear Sarhe, Sarche, Yi Chebe, Ningzige, Ranglas, Mene, do budget, Zundu Zambago was, Keva Jazo come Churna, Hiba, do the Chever Chermate was, give a bomb was in the because soon as there was, course, the shady Gaden Dorgobies and did some Shilla, Yishebe, Ningzig, Rangla, Menes, and the budget. Soon as Zambago was, Keva, Gyeltsen kumchurne hibe dodi chewa sherme dos. Keba gyeltsen kumsanda, and the keba mango kumsanda, the second laftas about the Tanda Koji Waris. Said that did the and Tanda be long logo, she was loyal 2 years within be until some potential military wars. Said that has potential military Tawatilaya, a Toatani, said these are tongues, it mother said they shall. Did they see the and be not should be Momba? She would go over this and around about Ning to shed and be music of Judah, she's about my sugar is what is that.
So the explanation pertains to stanzas 35 and 36. And as Geshe explained, this is how bodhisattvas are engaged in self-reflection, and they are tried to develop self-confidence and encourage themselves to pursue their paths and practices and actions. As Geshe explained, that bodhisattvas, as they self-reflect, they said, I have been so fortunate to have found this fully endowed precious human life, which is characterized by freedoms and enriching factors. And this kind of life is very rare to find, yet it's greatly meaningful. And when I look at the things I have done, I don't know even how I have found this wonderful life, but I have, And in order to be able to practice and advance on the paths and stages to enlightenment, we really have to have a very favorable kind of a life that empowers us to be able to do that, because any kind of life is not going to cut it, But yet, I'm so fortunate. I have this fully endowed, precious human life that is capable of practicing anything and achieving enlightenment. But so far, I wasted much of it, I have this precious gift, and then I goofed, And so now I cannot do that. If I lose it, then it's very hard to find this over again, This is the most, what we call advantageous life for practice and Dharma advancement, and I have found it, okay? And so now I'm going to assess the precious of this life, and I'm going to resolve that I will use whatever remaining of my precious life, to be able to follow the path and practices and advance on the path and stages to, enlightenment. I have so far seems like used this wonderful life more to fulfill the mundane goals of this life, kind of a samsaric, mundane, things. But now I do not want to waste it pursuing the mundane affairs of life, but I'm going to follow the supramundane, transcendental goals, so that because this life is capable of doing that, and before I lose it, I'm going to resolve and encourage myself and tell myself, yes, I can. Why not? Practice and do the Bodhisattva practices, and so get involved in action. So far it looks like I wasted my life, and I was very ignorant about that. So that's kind of a shameful, embarrassing, But now I don't want to be ignorant and shameful anymore. I want to move forward, and this is the way I'm going to do it. Right? That's what the Bodhisattva is telling.
What did the 10 was 10 basic, because it's 10 better you did do give a just the part of Koma Shakuba, relation on less. Sanji Karsa, Rasaji, a good lesson down. Love the mellow lesson down. Jide Malukun son, Jide Shindu, Pamika, teacher, dear teacher, Deva, Jurnamji, Pabupungaji drove the Shizo, Jevasumbe, Shizo. so Jebara Sumbe, Tony, Niran Menji, Simja Tamji, Gua, Padi Meva, Tamji is Junju di Jibe, Saji, Saji, Pabuga, Jungdrop, Pabuga Tamji Jobe, Yawa Janjur is a basic Jungdrop. Peshe tamche drushi ye, yewa janjur ye. Sen sunjubo tamche drushi ye, yeza tongjur ye se, zubu. Ten drushi munjur ye, uyu zugdor. Ten drushi janjur ye. Janjur ye song shuyu tong so, tung so drova was did that say somebody based the Duke has a gorson or the gore is Kaje Measures Shawsawaya Simsi Ganga gets a Ganga Chisura Tamji Gawa Padu Tamji Junjur Tamji Gawa Sa Junjur Jilia do this Karza. Tamji Junjur Jiu Sanji in Pabuga Jig drops, say Jig Roda. Pabuga Tamji Dube Gawa Janjur Beji Jig drops, Beji Doka is there. Beji Tamji Dubji Gaza Janju, say Sumju Tamji Dubji, Yeza Tongi, Zubus Dep, or did Sanji Zubus. Tin Dubji Bunjur yes, Uyudor. Tin Dubji Janjur yes, Song Shu Tung Juba, Jova was. Because Songa and Latu said that Joe Kaiser Chawda. Kaku Jumanshu did the Songa and Latu said, because some of you said that saw the Lela or Juman was Agris, or did return of Songa did it. Gobolujo, return of Songa did it. Jeva was up.
Nieranda against Simja Tamji Kewachi, the bomb, shoot Tamacho and Pabi Pogachi to Busno.
La
Nieranda, Simjan Tamji Kewachi, Tamji the Pungarwage, then they shoot Tambala, Chulaya, and a Pabi Pogachi to Busno.
Pabuga, this was the Beji, send the Beji, send you rules.
No.
Send you
Law.
Send Susan in the Beji Jajura.
No.
That is send you do, that is send the Beji rules. Ganga Jaju, you might read it.
Tambu Pagu Pogachi Drubala, Nieranda, Simja Tamji Kewachi, the bomb,
Jaju, sir.
Allo Jajula Roage, or Aladine, the Janjula Beja Chicks Roage, Beja Janjula Senji, St. Thomas. But too many maths are coming up, and just want to make sure the numbers are correct. So Geshe-la's explanation is related to stanza number 36, which reads, but I have never developed acquaintance or familiarity with even a fraction of these excellences. How strange it is to squander this precious birth I have found by some coincidence, right, relating to that. So as we said earlier, Bodhisattvas have met this promise, and those of us who are following, we did the same promise, footnote by the way, you should say that, that we want to be an enlightened being, Buddha for the sake of all beings. And an enlightened being is someone who is free of all afflictive emotions and imprints, who is endowed with all wonderful qualities and realizations, right? Period. That's what an enlightened being or enlightenment is, according to Buddhist perspective. So we often talk about how an enlightened being's body is marked by 32 major marks and 80 minor marks of realizations, right? In Tibetan called Tsenda Peje. And also the speech is marked by the 60 enlightened melodious qualities. So there's a lot of numbers there. So how difficult it is to achieve like all of this, right? How much causes do we need to create? That's why the number comes here. Yeah. In order to be able to realize this enlightened quality of a pabu, one hair pour of an enlightened being, right? One hair pour we're talking about. The amount of merit that's required is that we put all the good energies of the merit of sentient beings and also Sharvakas, hearers, together, multiply by 100 times. Okay, I've got the number right because I double checked. So that will equal to be able to realize the one quality of enlightened pour, hair pour, okay? And so now we multiply that by 100 times, that merit, we are able to accomplish one major mark of enlightened being, okay? Then we multiply that by 1,000 times, 100 times we are able to get one of the 80 minor marks, We multiply that by 1,000 times, we're able to get one major mark. So can you imagine that? How much merit causes we need to accumulate just to have like one of those enlightened qualities? And we said we want all of them, right? And what did we do? What are we doing to deserve it? So we tell ourselves, really, we didn't do much. Bodhisattvas, right? So therefore, we can change it, right? We feel bad for not doing it, regret it sincerely. Now, kind of it's not too late, so to speak. I didn't say that footnote. So we want to change our attitude, and we want to be really serious and encourage ourselves that we would like to engage in all the necessary paths and practices. Yeah, so that's the bottom line, what we are talking about here.
Gab Shantideva, Simsi Shen Nongla, Se Gaden Shebu, Shebe God, Yi Dewa Mashela, Chenye Gumjo So, Hero Ni Gone, Se Lungdo Yiteba, La Shawa Mashi Sheba, Yana, Panye Gilang, the Sushin Mashi Pe, Deba La Shawa Mashi She Shola, Shenyang, Kusung Toji, Livung. Living shooting sola, Kurtida, Gindula, Haganda, Kungarawa, Simsa Bua so. Tempe Shawa, Majavata, she Sumeba, Yodo, so that is also causing Yenzel, so the Karsia, Shimju, she is anti theory. Tadaka Kashi was the Karsan. Me jaw told me what he got Karsina, and then me lived to the Karsa dog. It's something the Sanji Gujo that the Chevy Tandalia in a Kasoji choosing. Yawashi Kusu, yes, dancing was so. Today, Yawaka drove and looks or cut down. She was so cut down, Hindi, Simpson. No, Gadon one, Simpson can be Tomo of Jenny. A direct Kaya Shaman going to Tile, Gawashim and those. Another type direct no longer Mashuna, Gum Jaya was in the Gravasina. And Shizu Chenye so Chenye Gundo, so Hero you shall go in. Hero you go long go, you never shower my sheep. Yang Panye, long to see you, Mashi, but Tama, Shaw, Mashi, Shea, Sola, Shea, Kusu, Livum, Livum, shooting sauce, good data, Yindula, Sangandang, Kungaro, Simsam, so. Debe Shaw Mashiba, she Sumeva, you to us out. So it did that. Tada so Himju, Givaju country Georgia and Kai Dromedus, Sanjay the way at Kunjo Shiva of them here, direct Kai Dromedus. And Simjan is a matter of town, direct on the Dromedus. And they were direct I mean the young hero senior going to be Giovanna Lens of Gumjoya was in the Togo was in the Tigravati. They are Shimendus. Says that Tazapa de Betola, Mr. Tola Togan of Tanshas. Says that this is the dad soon to be. Mr. Thompson never seeking in say, what did ya Tamjan ya loved Kaza? You see, Java lovely, ya Georgia is totally what did
So we're on page 93, stanzas 37 and half of 38. So as Geshe explained, that Bodhisattvas, they are engaged in self-reflection. Okay, this is about intra-personal communication, telling themselves, not telling others. Interpersonally, it's intra to self. And so they said, well, on the one hand, I'm very fortunate that I have found this precious human life that is characterized by freedoms and enriching factors, and that's capable of doing almost anything and achieving anything. Okay? But then on the other hand, when I engage in the self-assessment of how I have used this precious human life so far, actually I have wasted it so much. So how have I wasted it or not done anything meaningful, then the list is quite long here, right? As follows. I have not made offerings to the Buddha. Okay, so that means I have really not made any meaningful offerings to the Buddha. I have not given the pleasure of great festivals. I have not delighted beings with the festival of fulfilling their needs. I haven't done that. I have not performed actions of the teachings, as Geshe explained, that so we are engaged in self-reflection, right? Not doing a business with other people, what they are doing or not, footnote. We are talking about self-reflection, what I have not been doing. So Bodhisattvas say, that I have not made any meaningful offerings to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Okay. Or have I helped the poor and needy, being very generous, kind to them? I have not done that either. Okay. So now I ask myself, those some things I could do, but I haven't. But have I really meaningfully engaged in the study and practice of Dharma, right? Okay, I have not done offering, I have not done prostration, okay. But have I done something else? Have I really seriously engaged in the study, listening to teaching, and practicing the Dharma? This is how we preserve the two aspects of Buddha Dharma, right? The scriptural knowledge of the Buddha Dharma discourses and the realization aspect of the Buddha Dharma. That's based on practice, but I haven't done that either, okay? What is it? And so I have not made any meaningful offerings, render service to the holy representations of enlightened body, speech, and mind. I have not really treated or served the Sangha members at all. I have really not engaged in the practice of abandonment and the cultivation. So this is how I wasted so much of my precious human life so far. Okay? So now I realize that, and I'm not going to be discouraged by what already happened. I regret for that, right? Gone is gone. I cannot go back and redo it. But hereafter, right now, I will develop my courage, enthusiasm, joy to be able to engage in all this possible positive action so that I'm able to fulfill the promise I made for sentient beings. So I'm going to engage in the Bodhisattva's perfections and deeds because I can, right? I haven't done it so far, that's not right, but it doesn't mean I cannot, I can, yes I can, telling yourself, and this is how the Bodhisattvas are doing self-assessment and self-reflection, and then they boost up their, the confidence level.
No lungju ge pongbe simjin ubo so na la sego so nyego no lungju yi pongbe simjin ubo so nyego so tamji jime go ne tida sama zo ba ma shi ba da jado nagala so be tamji jimbe ka sa jado nagaso na ka la so be se jigbe nyamba na la jigba te da tale jabe tab shibe gone se sa go shibe gone mijibe shibe gone se mijibe jigba shibe gone se gone mijiba mashiba tang shede den shawa mashiba so this one bon rimbashi sure da 상승 좀 최당 상승 지 최당 상승 미지베 제바 소마지베 마지베 토인 바양 송소스 디레다 가지 어디 가지 다 가서 심지시 가네 건서 소르베게 애니 현의 비게 상승을 팬토도 쉐이고 팬토도 에 되면 현다고 닝제도 저 팬토 심주르시데 그 뒤가 가이세면도 다다 바디 베서 베 동동제를 위해서 세 다른 소리에 디레다 지금에서 이 강가베 조조토베 시들 에디베 좀바 슈우시도 로기 있어 디레야 탐제셔야지 소리 어디다
stanza 38, the first two lines read, I have not granted fearlessness to the frightened, and I have not given happiness to the weak. So basically, as Geshe said, that if, as bodhisattvas engage in self-reflection seriously and self-assessment of what they have done so far or not, so then they just kind of realize that I'm capable of making offerings to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. I didn't do that much, right? I'm capable of, saving the lives of people in danger, right? Give them the sense of safety and security. I didn't do that either. That is what we call the generosity of giving fearlessness, isn't it? And I'm capable of helping the poor and needy. That's the generosity of material gifts. I didn't do that either, yeah? And have I given the gift of the Dharma or generosity of Dharma? I didn't do that either. So even with the practice of generosity 3 level, I haven't done much. So I really wasted my life so far. And so once you make the promise to become enlightened being for others, what goes with that promise or the pledge is that I would like to find every possible way to benefit sentient beings, isn't it? Because there's innumerable ways to benefit. But when I go through the list, even few of this I said, I haven't done it, So how could it be when I made a big promise and now I didn't do much with that? And so I really regret for that. That's not cool, okay? And so now I want to be cool, modern translation. Hereafter, so how can I be cool hereafter is that now I resolve that I'm not going to repeat all these mistakes and I'm going to develop the joy and determination and the confidence so that I'm able to engage in all of these actions. I will develop compassion for others. I'll follow with that practice as much as I can, benefit others, and this is what I'm going to do.
어디 가지고 지만 남기세요. 그래서 사생그 집어 쉬요 민지고 집어서요. 어디 집어서 가지 나서 쉬어다. 집어서 가야베 펜도면 두시고 다 노롱주세 되는 시면두시. ene data don the nebe jidin de telia minjibe capji ya dire shungmundus ene chode dire belangdor de ne shungmundus sera simji don zan shemundus da kanji so bi karja jeba jene ene simji ya dire do jibata jebe tapshebe gone se ene shebe gone se minjiba ma karja jiba 마신바 제 여대 때는 샤와 마시소 드스버림바 버셔의 상승 민지부지바 송라 민지부지바 송 마지비 통연바양 송소스 어디다 가지다다 뒤에 가르스는 셰데 때는 샤와 마시바스들 대 최이바시 ene karsa nor lunje sema ma se de sangsang je ba she ta jado la se ne ba ni jo ma je de ya min si bu ji ba she o ti ji ba dang su khang ge go ne ene sim jen ya pen do shong ma du si o ti de se ja ju se.
So, Geshe-la re-explained that as Bodhisattvas engage in self-reflection, self-assessment, even in terms of just the generosity, the practice of generosity or giving, dhan paramita, perfection of, there are different kinds, as we often talk about this. The generosity of giving material gifts, the generosity of giving protection or fearlessness, sense of security, the generosity of giving guidance or dharma. But I haven't done anything like that, right? I have not shared any of my wealth with anybody. I haven't helped the poor and needy that I could in some way. Have I protected the lives of those who are in danger that I'm capable of? I haven't done that either. Or have I shared some like a Dharma insight or like how to stop doing negativities or like do the positive? I haven't done that either. So although I have achieved this wonderful human life, very rare and meaningful, I really wasted it so much, So I now sincerely regret for that, and I'm going to change, right, that now from this moment onward. That's what basically Bodhisattvas is telling themselves.
Chavati ja mashibe sedage mi chawazo sonya mai yena se neve se mani sunguzumo jebata zewatang sojung se so mani la se yedo so ye dungi bashi jeba shewa zang sege tele sheme Tenzin Dorjee goba chung ranshin ji tongsen ma zho xie jeba jebe go ne se rang la men de ba je de zhu zhu zong ba go wa se o de da ka ji da Tenzin mu lu to ba de kan de goba je shong zu Tenzin mu lu to ba de da ma ye de da go xiao ji na de de ma du go ta ha de ma je sa ne ma so yu xia o de ge ma du nge zhe a ji ma de ji da mi lu top de delia goya tongzhe de jie zhuo men du si shi de da tian zhe mi lu to ya de be ma du nge te ya ji ma de ji shu xia de zan ba de zhuo to men du si shi de su de ji ba shu shu bo jin ta de song de ne be de de ma yi ba xi shu ma yi ru gu yin si o de tam zhe ji hui de.
So Bodhisattvas bring this whole list of how, even though I have been very fortunate to have this fully endowed human form, precious life, with freedoms and enriching factors, it's a very rare kind of life, greatly meaningful, highly capable of doing anything. But when I went through the list, have I used it in any meaningful way that it should have been? I haven't. I've gone through the whole list, right? And I kind of failed on all of that. So that's kind of a shame, and what I have achieved so far, if I really look at it honestly, it's just that I gave much pain to my mother, making her carry me in her womb for 9 months and 10 days, and then she delivered, she had labor pain, and then she raised me and made a lot of sacrifice and brought me up to here, and I just simply end up producing a lot of pain for my mom. That's all I achieved so far, looks like, okay? So that is really a regrettable thing and not cool. And so I really regret all the mistakes done and sincerely regretting for what I have not done. So now I resolve that I'm going to use the remaining of my life, right, very meaningfully, right, try to help others, benefit others, engage in the Bodhisattva's perfections, engage in the path and practices, accumulate merit, purify negativities, and I'm going to do that, right, as I should have been doing with my big promise, which I didn't do so far. So this is how basically Bodhisattvas are self-assessing their situation and then making a resolution and determination to do better.
Yang da rangi da rangi mai nghe na neve sungu nyam sinyo ta ze ni jeng zang 전에 장 초지 속에 동행 바시 제바를 세계 시자로스 다다다 소소다 밀리라 다다다 말 동행에 아저지만 개 가게 되면도 생님아 되라 다다다 될 맛이 있어 근데 소소다 밀리나 뭐지 소소소에 나 애니께 동행나 가 동행나 너무 뭐 뉴아저라 어때만 규지를 비게 러시아를 패도야 도다를 짠으면 되지 이제 독스지는 죄와시네야 이제 세계계는 되그래서 왔다 아메동에 상호직다 소소동에 상호직다 어디서 왔다.
So as Geshe read from the commentary, there's two ways we can think about and then make the resolution. The one we said it earlier, that when I really sincerely assess and reflect on what I have achieved so far, really not much, and it all ended up giving a lot of pain and agonies to my mother for making her carry me for so many months in the womb, and then give her so much pain during the delivery time, and then, let her go through all sacrifices to care for me and raise me, and that's all I have done, right? So that is kind of shameful thing. But another way to look at that is, it's not only that I give so much pain to my mom, but for myself also, right? I have gone through in the Buddhist literature, the suffering of birth, and then, suffering of sickness, right? Suffering of all kinds of life challenges. So I have been through so many difficulties, but I haven't achieved anything meaningful. So on both fronts, having achieved this life, I should have done something meaningful that is beneficial to self and others, but I haven't done that. Why I end up so far is that I give a lot of pain to my mom, and I myself put myself through a lot of pain, and that's all I achieved. So,
Dumba maybe never made it, don't me why them bunny, because never did a chura, you are teaching, down the moon, the Sarah Shanda, Tataji, Joan de la Young, give it to Mubati, Tony, Dumba, Cherry. Never give it to ye, Jova, Tamji the treasure. Sibe Guba Tamji seen the Dewey Ponging. Nyangtaban Dijawa Shua, Jua Chura ina, Lord than then became a sweet. Chur move on, Tony Dumba Tonging. Dorde Doa Miji, she Doa Mirikwe. Pungi Guba Tamji, Guba le Tavam Jeva Nam Jes. Tabechura Tony, Numba Jeva Showers. That is the Jugdudo, that Timida, Doctor, the Cartiers and that little young Carson, Dubami never made this Delia in a Bangashi where them at this or Yeva Tenda, you show a change, Dan Wooji, Dan Yeva Young what you so. Sheda Chegun Susi Yajuro is worry. No, you tell of him that Tata Gewan de la Young, give it to the Muba de Tony Dumba and TV. Neva, ye, give it to Joatam J, and take you. See the Gubatam J, seen the function is Nyata Bandeja, Joe and Joina, Lodu than them base. Keba Suki Chura, Mebam, Tony Dumba Tonging, Dorden, Doa Mary Base, Ponging, Gubatam J, the Tawan Deva Nam Jes, Temperature, Tony Dumba Jeva showers, that had to do that so any Russians call Tona Shimaba, so called doing Bashing Dunga Jodi. You are using the Karshor. Tilia temperature told him ever share. And the Pamela could be Miguel Lemon would drop or Tilashung the orders. This shows that Tans to the end to get the position alone, and the Tonya Dumaya with Jenny. And the Miguel saw the barn and gave us surely a Mavaya was in Tonya Dumaya, what is it?
We are in the middle of page 93, stanza 39 reads, both now and in previous lives, such deprivation has arisen because of my lack of aspiring for the Dharma. Who had ever rejected this aspiring for Dharma, unquote. So as Geshe explained, so now Bodhisattvas have gone through this whole self-reflection assessment, then you said, I have wasted much of my time, and so why? Why did this happen to me, right? And so what they realized is that, nobody has really put me into this situation. I have been trapped in samsara, going round and around in samsara, going through all the samsaric, yagadi sufferings. It's basically my own doing, really, because I never had this aspiration for Dharma, right, in my previous life. And because of the habituation, I'm still the same thing. I'm mostly very careless in what I do, so that I end up doing a lot of negativities because I'm careless, And then this negativities produce more suffering that I don't want it, So I have nobody to blame, Nobody imposed any thing on me. Nobody forced me, obligated me. It's just my own doing, right? So now I realize that the aspiration for Dharma is very essential, right? Source for us to be able to do positive things, the virtuous things, and engage in practice. So this is what I was lacking before, and now I'm going to cultivate that aspiration in Dharma. Actually, the intelligent people do that, right? Because they have always generated that aspiration for Dharma, and that's why they try best not to do the negativities, and they try best to do the positive things. And why? The difference between them and me, because they have the aspiration for Dharma, I didn't have it, Now I will do the same thing like them. So I'm going to change myself, okay? I'm not going to behave like before, careless, no aspiration for Dharma. Now I'm going to be careful and, develop the aspiration in Dharma to do the positive things.
탐지기 해도 자와 교와 네 뭐바데 dumba님을 투영부 최탐지 천지 석비 송데스 잠비 신고래 최는 탐지 gen신데 제기 dum베자와라드니 강그 모놈 지다바 지부데다 니딘줄 해소스 어디 다 그래 자와 거기 되게 유자로 가르쳐도 센데스 왔다 디오에 자와도 그 리베 요 차타지 자와디 까부 쉐리스 데다 레레랑더리스 어디 데 산유점데 송캬 잠비 히고스 돌 송캬스 워와 디 최단지 gen신데스 dumbe자라도 뭐가 가리노 들리게리스 거리 dumbe자라니스 강그 몸짓다바 디버자 디자이너스 디버자니디어스 몸 가르다는 디버 어디 도고리스 세다 사소소 비게 데둑도 가리 뇽두에는 디주도 사소소 라바 여르마도지 야베 소도 가이 너미 어미 접시는 시도요 말이스 소도 다다베 야보시나 야보요 에네 비교하시나 에네 비게 다도 등은요 어디에 모두 들려 현다 가요 말이스 소도 뭐바테 도리스다 소도 뭐바요나 근데 여 뭐바 디바 지마 드리에네 예디로도 두글로도 에네 디부디 되어야 보는 다 드레 마지시 예디로도 상마도 가슴으시나 등은 용거로 세즈도 소도 뭐베 사무 캐슬라 알리거버도 현다 시지 등에다 되어서 포르거다 등에 땡게도 드려요 말 소소도 그 dumbe 뭐와텔 때 정오리 어디서 왔다
Geshe last reading of the commentary and explanation pertains to stanza 40 on page 93 that reads, "The Mighty One himself has said," meaning Buddha, said, "that aspiration is the root of every facet of virtue. Its root is constant acquaintance with the ripening effects of actions," unquote. So as Geshe explained, that aspiration is essential, is the source of virtue. Buddha himself, the mighty one, the able one, said in a sutra called Jambe Shingwe, the sutra that describes the Buddha field of Manjushri. He said that aspiration is the source of virtues. And so depending upon our aspirations, we experience results accordingly, right? If you make aspirational prayers, may all the bad things happen to you, they are likely to happen. Make the good things happen, and I want to make that happen, you might fulfill your aspirations. So aspiration is very powerful there. And so as Geshe explained, from Buddhist perspective, right, the goodness, happiness, everything must come from positive actions and virtues. Unwanted pain, suffering, headaches, everything comes from negative karmic actions or non-virtues, isn't it? And so because there is a cause and effect relationship between do good, have good, do bad, have bad. That's in the law of nature, right? Nobody has created that law. Okay? And so nobody can make us do something we don't want to do. So everything's in our hand. If you want to be happy, we want to have all the good things happen, you should have that aspiration and accordingly engage in positive actions because that will bring you positive results. And if you don't care what happens to you, then wish for all the bad things and do the careless things and you will get what you want. Okay? That's the law of nature, right? And so it is in our hand. It's not in anybody's hand. Nobody can make me suffer or make me happy. It is what you aspire for and what you do to fulfill that aspiration. That's what Buddha said in the sutra on the description of Manjushri Buddha field.
What did you say? That is all the Karzina. When the Dumba is that gave a shaken, Tabachura, Tony, Dumba Tayam. Zao Gun, 2000, gave me Lindile, Leda, gave me Leda, Leg, Namigi, Jibuji, Parodi, Parodi, so I did want the moon. So Yavajan, Mandeva Nuzula, Yishewe, Tevani, Yayan, Legwas Goma, Go Sheva, Goma, Nimbis, so Shibate, Tayang, Yishi, Teve, Tonye, Debaju Chiva, Sombe, Megale, Rivula, Yishi, Teve, Depondu, Debajeva Sheda, Gavelle, Yishi, Teva. Ted down long days, do not give a shiva in this. But here, that cause it till you never get under this. You go out, do doing because I do you may go do doing tell a young something. Tell easy, but ye shin shivers. Till ye says on any code they are draw the Muga as younger. Quite another ye must the long Pigalang time with the code. Lindley easy the Momias, I think got a gate over. So Lindley easy one is another Miguel Dribu doing it, Girl Dribu doing what he said. Easy to what demo you know. In long the Colosi was the long the Colosi at the Tada easy with the Tevaya would be with Dodges. No tell the show answer. You deal that daughter, you deal Lindley now, but easy Teva Changadi. And that's all the Teresa or that.
So if aspiration is the source of virtues, then how can we have it, right? How can we, acquire or develop that kind of aspiration? So in response to that question, as Geshe read and explained, so basically we have to reflect on the infallible working of the natural law of karmic actions and results, isn't it? Positive actions yield positive results. Positive actions can never bring negative results. And negative actions never bring positive results, they will bring negative results. That's in the law of nature, right? And if we seriously contemplate this and develop the belief in this infallible working of law of karmic actions and results, then we know what to do and what not to do. We will follow it sincerely because we know I want all the good things happen to me and in everybody's life. So I'm going to do everything good, right? That yields good results. And nobody wants suffering, and I don't want to bring suffering in any other's life. So therefore, I should not do anything negative things, right? So we will really find ourselves engaging in the practice of abandonment and cultivation. The reason why we are really, despite that we wish for happiness, we engage in the wrong action that produce the wrong result. Despite that we don't want suffering, we create a lot of negative. Why we are doing everything wrong is really because we haven't developed that belief, right? That aspirational faith in the working of law of karma. We have kind of a little bit, like we just give a lip service, like, oh, karma, and I know karma works. So we don't have that real, like the gut level, like effective level belief. So that's why, we find ourselves engaging in the wrong actions. We want happiness, we do wrong things. We don't want suffering, we engage in the wrong action, right? This is why things are going wrong in our life, is we are lacking that kind of a belief or aspirational faith. Once we have it, contemplate the law of karma, then we will find ourselves behaving right accordingly and well. Okay?
Leji Pino the Nimi Simbata. Cheba the Chosen Jeva Nam the Levy Peo Dam. Teda gay Nimi Gase, Junior Simbaye no set. Get Miguel Lendela, Ye Cheve. Jide Yanta Betawa Ni Kumba Keshe, Hiddenly. Kede, 30 Tava Moonshire, Yanda Tala, common Yudin. Kansa Lopata, Lick Tamjet number member, Messending, Jesus, or these are the Jide Yanta Betasa, she or Jide Yanta Betasa, Condil Junior Ishik, Jide Yanta Betasa, that was the Toy the Betasa, or the get the talk about. Jide Yanta Betasa, Lindel Ishi at the late Jide Yanta, Lindel Ishi, the years. It did long the cold jug marvat. Imagine it Gama was at a mega news dance Yungurati on in the Deomada doing you at the Shuni Radio. Say that this is the today I would do the Yonda common Jews, is the lady Ishi bet the Ujimiju Congress, but take on any long of tweaking the sheet of a chagrin. The lady Ishi, my party, Lando Yakushi, Yonto Mara, what is it?
So as Krishna explained, and there is a citation from Arya Nagarjuna's letter to a friend, or Shirulek, shading in Tibetan. And so to substantiate the point, that we have to kind of repeatedly and seriously reflect on the infallible working of natural law of karma and actions, right? Positive actions necessarily bring positive outcomes. Negative karmas necessarily bring negative outcomes. And this is the law of nature, right? So we have to convince ourselves and develop the belief in this natural law of karma and how it functions. So this natural law of karma and belief, this is what we call in Buddhist Jigdembe Yangtabatawa, mundane perfect view, isn't it? Believing in the law of karma, that good karmas produce good results, bad karmas produce bad results, right? It cannot go other way around or mess up somewhere. And truly believing that is called the perfect mundane view, Jigdembe. And then, of course, in Buddhism, we talk about the view of emptiness. That's a transcendental perfect view, right? And that is to do with how things actually exist, it's the ontological view of the phenomena. Now I'm speaking like a professor there. The big word. This is how everything really exists. That's what we say. Fancy word, ontological. So as Geshe said, that once we really develop that belief, then we will really behave accordingly. There's no other way. We will do less negativities, means less suffering. We will do more positive actions, means more positive outcomes. It's just natural. That should happen, isn't it? But right now, we don't really have that belief. That's why, as much as we wish for good things to happen, we do the wrong things and we get the wrong one. as much as we don't want the wrong thing, then, we get more of that, what we don't want, because as much as we think, okay, I believe in karma, we really don't have that, right? This is why our actions are getting messed up,
namda cheshing mindebe riktamje duani ju digba mega le bashi jewa le shuan jewa yinos otida lende jewa da konso onshi da shi ho choa dewa jik shuan onshi ho choa yi choa ni shuan ni da ya 비비니에 동에서 매매 소 나자레 보셔도 디레이네 간지 가다 디레가가 이제 자와르디 미겨알 송어리스 다 대화들 녀나 롱시보드 지체를 자야 진실 이 게은 디버리스도 와 세다 게디도 다 마저 소소디 단 슈그 마리스 게디디 랭 예와세 가서 라우는 시디 랭 예와세 저러와 어디 랭 예와세 Gyeltsen dungache da Gyeltsen dewache otire yomarwasida lending yevasya dilawade samlo lending isesya da konji kondaja be ngondo topgonanda ya dajaba gomoto saje onanda konji kondaja te mazajo chonjo mazatso de lending langso sya dira da lending langso jasemo sya de jasungju jibshungje tele sya de jibdingse 세버스네 집이 세버려라 제가가 렌데 간도되고 로야 강하다.
So as Geshe read from the commentary and explained that the source of virtues is aspiration, and the source of aspiration is reflecting on the infallible working of natural law karma actions. Yeah? And so it is essential for us to do everything to develop belief, aspirational faith in the working of law of karma. And as Geshe read and explained, that all the pleasurable and unpleasurable feelings we experience, right? The unpleasurable feelings that accompany our sensory perceptions or consciousnesses, and the unpleasurable feelings that accompany our mental perception or consciousnesses. These are related to negative karmas. And the pleasurable feelings of the sensory perceptions, consciousnesses, pleasurable feelings of the mental consciousness are the result of positive karmas. So everything is related to the law of karma. And then, of course, in Buddhism, we talk about all kinds of suffering, right? The suffering of the hell, the suffering of the hungry ghost, and all this suffering, samsara, are the outcomes of negative karmas, isn't it? And all the good things that we talk about in Buddhism are the outcomes of the positive karma. And so there's no way to skip the karma, isn't it? It's a natural law that functions and that determines, right, what kind of a experience we will go through here and hereafter. And as Geshe explained, that in Buddhism, we have different goals of our practice. The least goal is that I want to have a good rebirth in my next life. Well, that only comes from the good karmas, isn't it? And if we do the bad karmas, we can wish for the good one and we will end up with the bad one, right? Because that's one. And then those who want to be free from samsara, right? end the whole suffering, that can only happen if you believe in the law of karma and do all the positive actions, causes that will lead to liberation from samsara, isn't it? And then those who say that I want to be Buddha for the sake of everybody. Well, how can we be Buddha if we ignore the law of karma and do something else? No, it goes back to the law of karma, isn't it? So it seems like, depending upon our capacities and how much we can handle and think about karma, the practices of the three types of practitioners come about, isn't it? The initial level practice is based upon the belief that you will do good and avoid bad so that you will have good rebirth in your next life. That's the minimum, right? And then the aspiration and practice of the intermediate level is, I want to be free from samsara, okay? And so based upon that aspiration and positive actions and practices, you achieve freedom from samsara. You end your suffering. And then those who say, I just don't want myself alone to be free from samsara. I want to be Buddha, enlightened being for the sake of everybody. With that aspiration and practices based upon the law of karma, then you become bodhisattvas and then you become Buddhas, isn't it? So everything goes back to the fundamental the law of karma. And if we ignore that one and do something else, that's not going to yield the result, right? So everything goes back to the law of karma, and we have to develop that conviction in the law of karma.
So
Geshe realized we need to stop there and welcome your questions. And first let me write down this page number before I forget. And page 33, stanza 40, something. You have anything online? No. Okay, then we are back here. Would anybody like some questionnaires?
I'm stuck on verses 31 and 32.
31
we talked about them last week.
Okay.
Yeah. Why is that? It's very peculiar that there's such a repetition. He's according to my translation, but I think it's not much different from the one you're reading from. Verse 31, it says, the powers of aspiration, steadfastness, delight, and letting go. Letting go is rest in your translation. And then in this verse 32 again, it talks about the powers of aspiration, self-confidence in this case, not steadfastness. Delight, letting go, rest, and dedicate. Why is this? Why is he repeating? And seems to be referring to different things, because in verse 32, it says that starts with uprooting its opposite in its way, the opposite of joyous effort or zeal here. In this way, referring to the first four sets of powers: aspiration, steadfastness, delight, and letting go. And then, this is how you uproot laziness, but then you increase laziness by the four sets of the four powers of mentioned in verse 32. Okay. So what I'm thinking is that maybe the first power, the powers of aspiration, steadfastness, delight, and letting go in the verse 31 refer to something else, not the same aspiration, even though the same terms, but there's something else.
I understood your questions. I'll get back to Geshe now. Korean condition the direction that I pivot the best never can. They tanda sixty some just soji the Sony need the wagon. The general responses are wagon. The gen. Kansanat some just soji now ya can this sig the water Karsore tanda Mebache, Tembache, Kawache, Dorashe wagon. These shares have showed that the six shama, the Sumju Sony now let away. Yam Mebache, at the Diraka, Midimbe can say any the top sheet of Larua, a top sheet de Mebache, any Najeg top Cheroage, any the Kawache, Thora Red Wage. She did the generals to Korea Kodan Chanarwage. Tangbudi that the Mebada, Tempada, Kawada, Thora the share. Niba di meba say there could you shama yemen or canina so can condition chase or six ni nalia de years to Tonda Chiba in a manner, just that the Yemen or so game coach on size.
top nga cái gì đâu có ra đi rồi.
Top nga đi nào là xích chân nhị cái nào là cái đi coi xem là deux giờ rồi dùng đồ rồi cái. Cái thằng bữa đến nào là ya mèo bắt da, tem bắt da, cá bắt da, đồ bắt lấp sao rồi cái. Ya nhị bắt đến nào là mèo bắt da, ngà dê da, cá bắt da, đồ bắt lấp rồi cái. Đi đó là nhị lấp cái mà đi thằng ta cũng chỉ xem bao nhiêu mà là cái này nào rồi ta mèo bắt sẽ.
Đi đó có đó thằng bữa có mèo bông xe 그런 맹다야 다들 그 사진 말려고 해서 아니 그런 맹려고 그러 대장도님들 려고 그러
니바디게 사제 간스타 가서 배나 준주 깨발라스로와게 디 미딘 쇼디게 디 메발 빵고레스로와게 안디 톱시디 깨고르스라로와게 양조 톱시디 데 양조 드딩으로 착도서게 디 고지 상바이면
되게 가면 요이 말에 되게 가르선 그 다들 희야 또 희거르시 콜이야 Dorda девочка я Joyous сии ругора. Сиде ходи на колледи вара. Тик барда.
Кен ди нибаде налия танда ди мидин чоги ньембор пангбе чудла роаге. Ди топ시 ди мидин чол па 자네 게 시기 메로게 로게. 다 가장 갱기 디 손소게 단다 레로 나마스 숨레 시 손로와게. 단다 디 top시 디 바 레로 들 파 자네 디 손게 개발 쉐네 메나.
어디 우리 다 레로 디
베나 메바디 가사게 디루베
레로 디 바샤
템바디 가사디
슈바샤 지라다 거기 기루 바스데 신여 마도 데라와 들 신여 마도 데다 레디 두게도 상호도 오거와 다다 데라와 슈베 레로 세야데 예 도토 마르 세야데 가지도 오거와 어떻게 저거다.
Yeah, we're just trying to sort out what's happening there, right? Because Geshe already closed his picture, so I'm just approximating what's here through my translation Tibetan. Geshe doesn't think it would be a case of like a repetition necessarily, in the sense that the meaning would be same, but things that in the first stanza they simply highlighted, right? Those four what we call the supports or conditions, right? And the second one, because they are tied up with the opposing forces, it's like relating to, right? For example, the aspiration is more like the antidote to the laziness of couch potato, and the self-confidence is antidote to the laziness of underestimating, right? I can't do that, I'm not ready, right? So like that, he thinks, it is relating to the antidotes relating to the opposing forces, he thought, yeah.
Yes, that would be the case in verse 31.
Right. Was 32. That was the case in verse 32 because it's opposing forces, right?
Okay.
31 doesn't mention the opposing forces.
No, but verse 32 mentions the opposing forces, but which are mentioned in verse 31. So the forces in 32 that are listed are not the opposing forces.
Wait a minute. What 31 has opposing forces mentioned in your translation?
No, the term opposing forces is not mentioned there. Right. It's mentioned in verse 32, but it refers to the forces in verse 31, not in verse 32.
Yeah. The four forces are mentioned in 31. Right.
And in 32,
and then 32
but
is mentioned,
in
right.
the terms of opposing,
right. So
opposing laziness, opposing the opposite of
right.
enthusiastic perseverance. Right. So that refers to the four mentions in verse 31.
Right, it's the same forces mentioned in 32, but now they are, Geshe thinks, is tied up with opposing forces. In the 32, right, the opposing forces are like we talk about laziness, right? Just he's saying the aspiration in the verse 31, it says aspiration, right? Second one is aspiration is antidote to the laziness of indolence, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And the self-confidence is the antidote to the laziness of underestimating. No, I can. I'm not really, that laziness. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
This question also relates a little bit to last week's teaching.
Sure.
Could Geshe talk about the relationship between aspiration and faith? Mm-hmm. Should we understand aspiration as a precursor to faith?
Sure. Okay. Mora condition the tunda ngema the dawa shukche srovage. Tanda de king meba sonda cherovage. Top shina meba. Mebe top yorovage. Di dan teba ni parula ya and dawa kare yores srovage. Meba se tagaran meba se di tebe ngondo rebe srovage. Teba je ngondo re mebe top da teba ni parula dawa kare yores ke.
대바다
메베토
뭐 대바세나 콜 요데 통화를 해그러와
나
뭐바세나 소소 고야를 다 통일을 쓰거라 뭐에서 콜 뭐에서 그래요
그래 이나 마다겐 디니라 페나자다 대백문로라고 될 메바 고고를 왜 쓰거게 메바 녀라래 대쇼라 대바 이걸 왜 쓰게
다다 콜 대바 콜 이해시네 알리 콜 약과 통 디세는 대바지로 예
그냥 이해는 이해하고 대바 말이게
디세거라 가지 줌바다 뭐바세야 되다 가지
내가 단도 어서 관도 관도 dim바다 dim바다 대바
아 줌바다 대바세야지는 대방관으로
대방이야지
대바 유엔에 현의 콜 누바지고
dim바지고 알레론스로
줌바스는 코 통일이 하지로
그래 단다 될 쉐베 dim바데킨 단다디 문제기 대바디 말와
다들 말에 원도에 대화 원도에서도 양 대화세한테 양한테 때 가도 그래 다다 원도에서 거 도피 되는 거고 누가 뭔가 대화시데 원도에 대화시도 돈도 일을 하셔라 대화 거 야뭐 이동화 통화 찔러 대화시로 다들 소설 배 이제 뭐 이사하디 뭐 고야 도시 사무야들 원도에 대화시가 말이야
단다 될라야 dim바다 대바니 카가샤도 just to make sure that things are kept in their separate baskets, so don't put everything in one basket. I'm telling you. So Geshe said the Tibetan term, if you're keeping track of that, is called Dunba, which has been translated as aspiration here. And the Tibetan word or the term for faith is Teba. Yeah. So what's the relationship between aspiration and faith? You said, does the faith is aspiration precursor to the faith? But actually, it's the other way around. So, right, the faith, comes first, and then based on the faith, you aspire. The faith is defined as sometimes admiration in the qualities of something, right? So when you have that faith, admiration, like I want it, then the aspiration comes, right? So it is the other way around. Okay, yeah.
About that, I'm still thinking about this, the connection between faith and aspiration.
Sure.
So it seems to me that actually this faith specifically is related to the methods for overcoming laziness of discouragement.
Mm-hmm.
The faith in general is so not so much to aspiration, but to I think it's mentioned as the power of steadfastness. Even in the verse 31, still going back to that.
Yeah. And then which becomes self-confidence in the second one. Yeah.
But the point is that in order to be able to overcome the laziness of discouragement, for example, one of the reasons we have difficulty with that is because we don't see living examples of enlightened beings. Right. I mean, we think this is or that one is enlightened, but we don't see it. We don't see people performing miracles and so forth. So in order to have faith, we have to be able to see that, and that kind of faith would actually overcome the laziness of discouragement, because if people still can do because we don't see living examples, we doubt that we have doubts that it's possible to become enlightenment. Nobody has become, maybe in the past, but not anymore. Living in these degenerate times, right? And so we can develop that by remembering that by purifying our minds, we'll be able to see enlightened beings, something along those lines. But it seems to me that it's related. This kind of faith is related specifically, overcomes the laziness of discouragement.
Chidangi Dumaza Mayimba, Havado de Lelu Rovagain, Daniela Pena Niba Leloka, Dean Yambusers Rovagain. The Koran Samatan when Angaduda Karsore can Dumba Maya Chick the Sanja yours, Ijigo Rovagain. Sanja yours, Ijigo Rovagain. Mother Sanja social this Sanja, there's some social pitch Nigo Marwagain. Pitch Nigo Marwa, so Muslim Nigo Marwagain. To Sanja Haku Marwa, Tapo Sanja India, some Ijit, when a Sanja Ranji, 수정을 제투고 연나 상제 되기다 고 주주로 나버 좀 땡기로 와게 대선은 안 고 대바지 그래 대바지는 디 드바지는 다 공원에 준비 찍으려 되니 가서 레르 좀 두고 와서 그러게 당 아주 상징을 제투고 매사로 와게 그래서 디기 드바시 숙심 게임 하듯이 되면 로서 그렇게
디디 이제 지도들 어디 리디 이시게 거스디로 너도 선지다다 선지야디 가가디 리디는 누구로 강지 주디사는 인기하시면 건도 되게 디사는 타라서 되게 디레사는 선지세 시고 리디 시고로 그래서 들리 이제나 인상지세야디 이제 시고로
그런 사람들한테 다디 삼로 망고 시부지 따는 게 간저 이제니 과지로 와게
그래서
그래서 디기 다 간저 삼로 코르토기 매베나 가레네 남사 맞으러 와 산제 무엇 간저 뭐 제투고 나러와게 산제 되게 주바텐시 그래 산제 되게 제스도 걸 엄마 다 된대 딱 뭐 시부도 삼 남사 지 레시로 와게 대바로 와게
디디레 체에 아리다
I guess I agree with you that if we had the ability to see a Buddha in reality action, right? Then that will make our life easier. That's how can you ever, right? The Buddha can show the enlightened qualities, the miracles. Then we develop admiration. Then we develop aspiration. Then enthusiasm. It all follows, right? But because we are not in a position to be able to see Buddha nakedly or like directly, so the only way for us at the moment, the alternative seems to be, because Buddha gave this all teaching based upon his own enlightenment, right? He said, this is how I did it. So you have to develop belief in the law of karma, right? Because all your practice, path, everything is rooted in that. So we have to contemplate, study the law of karma well. Like in the lumbering, we talk about how the law of the karma has different aspects, right? Certainty of karma, increasing nature of karma, and all of those things, right? So through contemplating that repeatedly, so this is the way we have to develop. So it is a long way process. It takes time, right? So once we succeed there, then the aspiration will follow. Yeah.
I have a follow-up to my question.
Sure.
So thinking again about aspiration and faith,
Yeah.
it seems like a key ingredient to both is the admiration of the Buddha's qualities or enlightened qualities. So if we understand faith to be a precursor to aspiration, then should we understand that that admiration essentially enhances as we develop? You know, as we go, should we understand that as we go faith to aspiration, so too that admiration of the enlightened qualities increases?
Should we? I missed something there.
Is that right? Is that understanding correct? That the admiration for those qualities, as you go from faith to aspiration, that admiration would also.
Okay, or leads to, right?
Yeah.
Morakan did show that again. Moran Chiva di Juktuina that again Dumbada Tebas Lavage.
나
Again Morangama get Chiva Dumbada Tabani Devachi or Wage. Against the Panadachi. 대바 세컨드 연된 토마샤고 로하게 연된데 토마스나다 디 톱데 두마티게 로하게 다제데 딘이가 로 먼저 케즈데 마서 내가 친구 시켜돼서 레스로하게 먼저 고야 로하게 저서서 녀리야 전한디 가서 오다 대바지에 셔도로하게 다 산지게 연된 토마토군에 디체고야 되게 처음이라서하게 다 디기 다코 가서 오래 대바디야 숙처를 치면은 그 숙마토게 디기 두마디 드레인 거로 와서 닌데 인지로하게 Yeah, Geshe says yes. So there is kind of a cause and effect relationship there. So, one of the ways we do is we reflect on the enlightened qualities, right? And that way we develop that admiration, faith base. And then as that increases, then that can connect us or relate us to the aspiration.
Excuse me, so I have a question.
Sure.
Well, this is actually a follow-up somewhat to Vladimir's question. But, I'm sure maybe we're not at a position to look at or see Buddhas, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are teachers or there are people, practitioners who have Buddha qualities, right? Who have show great compassion and who show great wisdom that I think we can at least aspire and develop some level of faith to them, right?
Sure.
And there are people I think that exist
Sure.
in our current world,
Sure.
right?
Orang kan disagree again. That again, bena 먼저 산제다 뭐스 제니 아니 산제가 윤된리야 즉 대바제 디그 두마제다 요마르와게 이나 코란스랑 이나 다 산제 뭐 제투고 요마르데 기우 담바 망고 요르바스 오르와게 기우 담바 디게델리야 베담이 윤된 것도 데스 통투고 오르와게 어 베나다 기웨시니 인데 기우 담바 딘데기 윤된 통바 딜 때네 가서 대바제로와게 딜는 담와데 기투고 오르와스 디드고 오르와게
제 다카데 간다 맥비가서 이거 지야 다 상지 지야 상지 미 쇼서 랑도르디 헤어 딩어서디 관계 하고 저 다들 삼았단서 등원의 이치에서는 상지에서 지기로
그런 데서게 당하죠 무슨 그 베스코나 산제기 다 최냠len 체게 제수가 양다버는 여러와게 기다 가서 기분이 개발의 파방에서 제투고 여러와게 그런서 다 인지 체제연 디네 통선나 딜 템베기 대바체로와게 딜 템베기 가서 아니 메바체투 듬바체투고 와서 그래 디디도 여러와게
제제도
Yes, Geshe, I agree with you that, as an ordinary beings, we don't have the ability to see Buddha directly, right, in reality. But then you're right, based upon Buddha's teachings, there are a lot of practitioners, sincere or holy beings, right, who are like more compassionate than us. So, they have more wisdom, right? So if we could see those things, that can help us to develop the faith, and then that can lead to the aspiration too. Yeah. Okay, so shall we stop there today? So we will continue this teaching next Sunday, and so we have some long life prayers of our precious gurus or teachers, and then we'd also do dedication of our merit together for the well-being of all beings. And so there is this booklet, page colored booklet, and we are on page 3. There's just one stanza there. Lord Gyeltsen Yutong Begate Geshe Phuntsok Gyeltsen Minba Tenpa Zingla Wangdo Jiche Tanye Shogun Gyala Sowa De. The translation is on the page 4. We turn to page 5. On the left side is Tibetan, the right side is the English translation. Mawa Dame Quingen Doma De Kandi Jongso Ninda Seze Jamgun Gyawa Niwa Yapse Ge Rangson Tenzin Mawe Shiva Tenzin Shewe Jingwo Zebe Sheje Nigun Shangju Tendu Longdo Tamje Pewe Peyun Je Duja Gyaltsen Gwendo Shabden Tesan Kongda Shezu Zombe Yongzo Yure Tube Nyake Longri Tejin Nubu Pedembe Tuden Kangri Tabo Shabden Dona Komen Zeba Namda Denda Rove Pende Jume Penjo Gyumi Chebe Chenle Geshe Dije Dendo Shabden Chizun Lame Tukje Melamda Geshe Dije Dendam Zangme Shozun Tudo Jido Domba Chida Membe Dungu Lendo Show page 9. Page 9, Ramjan Shingi, Gombo, Tseba, Me, Zodo, Namje, Keyun, Drama, Shoujo, Tseye, Lazo, Tamje, Tade, Mishi, Shogi, Mujo, Tode, Chena, Losan, Jawa, Shiro, Demba, Zimbe, Peyun, Tade, Duja, Yonge, Shenyen, Yangdu Ninje, Wongbo, Sowa De, Jigden Sumgu, Chana, Bemu, Dembe Sawa, Soso Tarwa, Namda, Sujimi Yangda, Langba Yi, Losan Yande, Bebe, Shabde, Tujun Gyaltsen, Nonzin, Yangbe Shi, Samjo, Namju, Tsangzin, Jumbe, Gomjun, Shila, Songju, Debu, Tembe Mata Shenbo Shabde Chebe Donga Gowa Bokcho Zebe Relang Siyu Bomja 准备顿点那些长者就记住新年全部晓得。特别朗读故事这道节，准备查查念做查测，上边对接那个一些路，顺便新年全部晓得。特上入了家园，点点节，民众大众上面事情，老天节点点着白烧。真的新年全部晓得，朝上要我世界勤劳不当，土地当街素面平来，大家爬上大别点别，其他门别等，论说长久心着人不知，马街不能解决，也把娘把灭把。国内共同陪我的说，当年大瓦人不去，马街不能解决，结我娘把灭把。国内共同陪我的说，啥事不解就是没到这，为了领先年的严巴的上街行动没得不。中文难道行了，这把说抗日热为国为新港，偏当的我马路中文，今日希望天津要做，下位西点八度点就去一当古如热闹嘛，你要大要面给我工作养大拉满当，这面去去别了老子。萨达南街原点合作，老街长街过帮牛路。